my senior year, in the year I was working on my master's degree, when in Dr. Martin's administration, the library, it was almost a reconstruction of it, because they pulled those beautiful columns out to the street and then built, just completely enclosed the old library all the way around, and then put another story
as I understand
over top.
There was no money to build libraries, but you could enlarge them, and so that's what Dr. Martin did. And as you said, it just left a nugget in the middle and built the library all around and over it.
Yes, and you know, we've had two. I made reference to the, you know, when the library was expanded with the Tom and Hazel Little building and the incorporation in such a beautiful way of the university building and the library. And then just last week, we dedicated the Ron and Sherry Lou Noel Studio for Academic Creativity, where some space that had been essentially unused since the Little addition was put on into a beautiful space that's going to benefit our students.
Yeah, I think that's a absolutely remarkable addition, and I suspect that schools all over this country will be checking to see how that works. Well, there's already a lot of interest from some institutions that are quite fine by reputation, but don't have anything quite like we have. Like we have here. But I think that, of course, my opinion is the education you get depends on what you put in it. I think you can get as good an education at Eastern Kentucky University as you do at one of the up east schools if you apply yourself. At any rate, if you apply yourself, you'll do exceedingly well right here. There's a fine faculty and the best facilities anywhere. And of course, Bob Martin was a sort of a genius on getting acquisitions, doing things like the stadium now. It's Roy Kidd Stadium, and he couldn't get anybody to build a stadium, but he could a classroom, so he built a classroom, put a stadium on the roof.
And I was thinking about that when you were talking about the way they did the library. And first of all, and I don't know if we've mentioned this on one of these before. See, before Bob Martin came here, he had served as Secretary of Finance. And Bob Martin was a true visionary in many respects. And he could see when he was Secretary of Finance that Kentucky colleges and universities were going to have a terrible time growing the facilities that they needed to have to take on the students, the baby boomers.
Yeah.
So the whole concept of what were called then the Consolidated Educational Building Bonds series, which made it possible because of a constitutional provision, which made it possible for the institutions to sell bonds and pledge their tuitions against those bonds, with the understanding from the state that the state then would not directly finance the bonds, but would reimburse the tuition to the institutions. That was a masterful stroke. And this campus, none of the campuses in this state would have been able to grow in the fashion that they did to accept these students were it not for that mechanism that Bob Martin helped create before he ever stepped foot on this campus as president. You've already mentioned the library, but he was also a master in getting these federal dollars to subsidize the interest on these bond issues. That was done building after building on this campus. But you're exactly right, but it was more than just the stadium. The official names of Alumni Coliseum and the stadium, with the Begley Building and Roy Kidd Field, were athletic academic building number one and academic athletic building number one and academic athletic building number two, because there were funds available, federal funds available, to help build academic buildings, but not necessarily purely athletic facilities. And not only was that done here, and I like to think it was Bob Martin's idea, and that the fellow at Bowling Green followed suit, but Diddle Arena was academic athletic building number one at Western, and L.T. Smith Stadium was academic athletic building number two. Same strategy was followed there.
Of course, one of the great innovations at Eastern was the creation of the School of Law Enforcement, and how it has grown. It's amazing what a big function it is, and it has a really great national reputation.
Well, that's very true, and without the College of Justice and Safety, as it's known now, and without the College of Health Sciences, this would be a very different institution. Now, as people like to say, Eastern's not a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
In addition to the College of Health Sciences and the College of Justice and Safety, we continue to be the state's leading producer of teachers.
That's right.
So
That's
we've
the
got
primary function.
So we've got, for many years it was, so we've got a remarkable college of education, and we have a very strong, fully accredited college of business. Our College of Arts and Sciences, which in my view is the heart and soul of any university, has a number of very strong programs and majors too. Our programs in biology, physics, and the sciences, social work, anthropology, and when you start naming them, you run the risk of hurting somebody's feelings. But there are lots of programs in that college that are very healthy. But without the critical mass that law enforcement and health sciences gave us, we would be, again, a very different institution today. We've got conversations going on right now on this campus about where are the current, because we know they're there. These things, there's always something emerging. What are today's equivalents of nursing, of law enforcement? Some of that answer is in online education, but not all of it. So,
well, of course, your new science building that'll be ready, I suppose, next year will be a state-of-the-art building that'll be the envy of every university in America. It's unbelievable what what do you call it? The green thing. I've got now.
Well, it's green, and it's very a lot of sustainable features in this building, both active and passive. But I don't know if this is a Back to the Future thing or not, but people educated in the sciences and what are referred to as the STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, are absolutely critical to the future of this country.
That's right.
Because that's where that's what's going to drive the economy. I think we're right on the verge here of, you've had the Industrial Revolution, you've had this revolution in technology. I think a big part of the next revolution, if you will, is going to be energy. And the answers to those questions are going to be rooted in the sciences. And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about the work that we're doing here on this campus in biofuels.
I think that it's absolutely right about that. You know, looking over the time I mentioned, I remember in my family, my mother ran a boarding house. And in 1928, brought the first radio in there, and the head of the physics department was a boarder, and he brought down an old radio. It had one of those horns out to the side and 3 big dials on it. And they listened to the returns of the Hoover-Landon presidential race in November 1928. And he left the radio down there, his first one ever in the house, until the end of the semester. It also left a mark of its presence, a black mark about that big under a wet cell battery where the acid leaked out and burned in the floor. But at any rate, later on, of course, we got a radio. Everybody ended up finally with radios. It's sort of hard for people in this day and time. Imagine living in a time when there was no television. But gracious, look at what's happened now. Cell phones. You can't see a student walking on this campus without a cell phone glued to the ear. The whole scientific world has exploded. And I think you have to be right that the science is the future. That's if we excel, that's where we'll excel.
And that's why there's so much excitement on this campus about that building and phase 2 of that building, which we need for biology and for the earth sciences. But now the flip side of that in the arts and sciences that we're also very excited about is the new Performing Arts Center that will be finished at about the same time as the new science building.
Well, it's so much bigger as I drive by and look at it, I ever dreamed it would be. That's a big, big building. And what's it got, a auditorium seat, what?
2,000.
2,000 people. That's a heck of a, I believe that's more than Hiram Brock.
Hiram Brock's about 1,500.
Yeah. Gracious sakes. Well, one thing you've got here at school, it's interesting, and the town doesn't seem to catch on to, is the art department puts on plays. They have one coming up here this November in the, it's in the Burrier, is that not the Burrier, the Campbell Building? Campbell Building, Gifford Theater. And they put on class.
Oh, we have great student productions in.
Really do. They're high-class performances.
In theater, in music, and we've about exhausted the time that we have for this. I've really enjoyed this. This has been more of a conversation than it has been an interview. But you have any closing remarks, Judge, that you'd like to make?
No, except I think that, as I've often remarked, if Eastern weren't here, Richmond would be about the size of Lancaster. It's the greatest asset to this community, period. No close comparison about it. And it's the cultural center. It's not only the educational center, it's the cultural center of the community. It's the sports center of the community. It's everything to Richmond. And I'm just proud that I've been a part of it. That's a very, very small part, but nonetheless, it's my school, and I cherish it.
Well, your alma mater's proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us on this edition of EKU Then and Now.
Thank you.